I've made pumpkin pie this morning, and I bought a medium-sized pumpkin, but I still have quite a bit of the pumpkin pulp that I need to do something with. So what I'm going to do is can it. I'm going to can it in jars. And just in case you don't know, pumpkin, because it's a low-acid vegetable, it has to be canned in the pressure cooker. Pumpkin has to be canned in chunks. It can't be mashed and then canned. So I'm going to cut it into about 1-inch pieces. Right now I'm cutting up my pumpkin and putting it into a Dutch oven, covering it with water, and I'm gonna boil it just a little bit and then pack it into my jars. And I have the jars actually in the canner right now. The canner is, for the present time, serving as a boiling water bath. My jars are now sterilized. All I have to do is put my chunks of pumpkin into it. Alright, I have the pumpkin cut into cubes, and I have a large stock pot with water in it getting hot, and I have to cook these pumpkin cubes for 2 minutes. Don't cook them any longer. You don't want them to be too soft. The chunks of pumpkin have cooked in the boiling water for 2 minutes. I'm going to pack them into the jars and seal them up, and then put the lid on the pressure canner. So we'll need 10 pounds of pressure for pints, and we need to cook them, have the pressure canner, the pressure up for 55 minutes. If we were using quarts, we would pressure them for 90 minutes, but we're gonna do these for 55. While we're waiting for the pumpkin to cook for 2 minutes in boiling water, there's some things that we need to talk about when you're pressure cooking. Be sure that you have enough water in the bottom of the pressure cooker. Sometimes your recipe that you're following will call for a certain amount of water to go in, but if you don't have any information about that, use at least 2 to 3 inches. And the longer the time that you have to process the food that you're canning, the more water that you're going to need. So I want to have at least 3, possibly 3.5 inches of water. I'm pressure canning pumpkin in pint jars for 55 minutes, and I'm supposed to have 10 pounds of pressure. So it depends on what kind of pressure cooker that you're using, but you should familiarize yourself with the particular product that you have and read the instructions on it before you use it. This particular canner has the petcock. That's what this thing is called. It's the gauge that goes on top of the steam vent on the lid of the pressure cooker. So what we're going to do when we put the lid on, we're going to keep it cooking as high as the burner goes. So whatever temperature that is, we're going to continue to cook it until the pressure gets up and steam starts escaping. Once steam starts escaping from your steam vent, time 10 minutes, and then at that time you'll put the pressure gauge on the petcock. And it's got, I don't know if you can see this very well, but it's got numbers on it. and depending on what pressure you should use, is supposed to be at 10 pounds of pressure, so I'll set the petcock onto the steam vent like this so that it gets up to 10 pounds of pressure. So you have to be careful when you start to put your lid on as to the amount of water that's in the bottom of the pot. You want to have at least 2 to 3 inches in there. And when you're timing, when the petcock then starts, this particular one will jiggle. When it starts jiggling, then you start your timing at that time. So it'll be 55 minutes for us. And if for some reason it stops jiggling during that time, you need to start your timing all over again from the beginning for 55 minutes. You can't just continue. It has to pressurize and be pressure cooked for 55 minutes at that pressure in order for the food to be safe. And there are, on the U.S. Department of Agriculture website, there are all kinds of instructions. And the organization that you're looking for is the National Center for Home Food Preservation. And they have all sorts of information for you before you start pressure canning, because it is a detailed, lengthy process that has to be followed exactly. So the pumpkin is almost boiled, and we're going to let it boil for 2 minutes, and then pack it into the jars, and then fill the jars up with the water that it's boiling in now. Our pumpkin has boiled for 2 minutes, so it's time to put it into the jars. So here we go. Okay, now you want about an inch of headspace in your jars. Now you don't want to mash these. You cannot can. You can't safely can mash pumpkin. Normally I would can the pumpkin in quarts, but I'm not sure this pressure cooker that I've borrowed will pressure can quarts. So I'm going to do the safe thing, and I'm just put them in pints. But when I make a pie, I'll probably I may have to open 2 jars. And the reason you can't safely can mashed pumpkin, it's the same thing as canning peanut butter. Back in the day, there used to be a recipe out there for home canning peanut butter. But recent tests have shown that it's not safe to do that. When something is mashed, then the airflow is not sufficient to keep all the contents of the jar up at a certain temperature that it has to be to kill the botulism and other bacteria. So it's just not safe to do that. So we're just going to can our pumpkin in chunks. And we'll mash it when we get it out of the jar. We always want to go the safe route when we're canning foods for our family and ourselves. I'm putting my jar lids in now. I probably should have dropped them in a few minutes ago, but they'll be fine. I still have to clean off the jar rims. And I have to make sure that I've got an inch of headspace in all my jars. All these little steps are time consuming, but you have to do them. This is not a process you can really rush. I'm going to take a clean dish towel now, wet, and I'm going to wipe off the jar lids. Okay, I think that's it. Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, I'm pouring this boiling water in. I want to have at least 2 to 3 inches. Let me do a little measuring here. That's not quite as much as I wanted. I'm going to boil some more water and pour it in. Okay, so let's see. What we have here. Okay, so that's at least 3, maybe 3.5 inches. Be sure that the rubber gasket around the inside of your pressure cooker lid is in good repair and that it's seated in the right place. You don't want any problems with the seal, the gasket. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid on. and close it. And now we're going to let it, the steam build up, and when the steam starts escaping from the steam vent, then we're going to let it cook for 10 minutes before we put the petcock on. Okay, so steam is escaping, and we have to time 10 minutes. So the steam has been escaping from the steam vent for 10 minutes now. So I'm going to put the petcock at 10 pounds of pressure onto the steam vent. And it should take it sometime between 3 and 10 minutes to get up to pressure, which we will know has happened when it starts jiggling. The little petcock will start to jiggle. The petcock is now jiggling, so what we need to do is adjust the fire under the pot just a little bit. We want to reduce the heat just a little bit, but not enough that we're going to stop the pressure, reduce the pressure. So we just need to turn it down just a tiny bit. And we need to start our timing process for 55 minutes. The pressure has been up on the pressure cooker now for 55 minutes. So I'm going to turn the fire off from under it and let it start the cool down process. Now, if I were using an electric stove, I would completely remove it from the stove top. But since it's gas heat and I turned it off right away, the process of cooling down has already started because the petcock has stopped jiggling. So I need to let it cool down completely, which will take about 30 minutes. And then we have to start the process of removing the lid. The pressure is now down on the pressure cooker. The petcock can be removed without steam escaping. Alright, so I have it off, but now we have to wait for 10 minutes before we can take the lid off the pot. It's time to take the lid off of our pressure cooker. Let's see what our pumpkin looks like. All right, here we go. It is beautiful. We have 9 pints of pumpkin. Now I'm going to set it over here on this towel on the end of the countertop and let it sit for at least 24 hours. Now I'll come back and check the seals and wash the jars, label them, and put them in the pantry till the next time I want to make something out of pumpkin. These are really pretty. If you found this video helpful, please like and share, and thanks for stopping by.